How we doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. It is Tuesday in the great state of Wisconsin, or wherever you are listening. It's a brisk week we have going on right now. The weather is kind of chilly, but that's not stopping us from the Wisconsin sports heating up. Badgers getting an impressive win last night. We're going to talk about that. The Bucks were also in action against the Wizards. We're going to be talking about that. Also looking at the Packers, Badger football, the college football weekend recap, and we're going to get into college basketball a little bit. Haven't got into it yet. We just want to dive in. It's a massive week of college hoops here over the holidays. Today, Austin is back. Some technical difficulties yesterday, but Austin is back today, hopefully without a problem. Austin, how are we doing on this fine Tuesday?
Yeah, yesterday we were doing good. Podcast started off good, and then my wife, I just took a dump, straight dump, so that wasn't very good. But I'm back, and I'm ready to get her started today.
He doesn't pay for the expensive stuff. He pays for the average
$5
stuff.
a month. That's all I can afford these days, man.
His roommate's playing Fortnite across the hall. He can't handle it, so that's where we're at right now. Priorities come into stay here. So, anyways. Enough about Fortnite, enough about Austin's personal life. We don't care that much. We're here to talk about Wisconsin sports right now. So, Badgers get it was an impressive win against Virginia. I got to say, I did not expect it to end up like this. 65-41, the finish in this one. First half, probably some of the worst basketball offensively I think I've watched in a while. Defense looked good. The defense looked great in the first half. 18 points they gave up to a Virginia team that can score it. Wisconsin did a pretty good job there in the first half defensively. Second half, Badgers went on a scoring frenzy. Three-pointers were falling. There was a lot going on in this one. So I'm going to jump over to Austin here with the stats for this game against Virginia.
Yeah, like you said, first off, I'll talk about, like you said, low-scoring first half. I did not expect that. But second half, we were able to pull away. We only scored 28 in the first half, 37 in the second half, which was huge, I think. But for our starters for the Badgers, Steven Crowell, 15 points. And we talked about how we wanted Crowell to start getting work there in the paint with his height advantage. I think he did just that. Wall had 9 points, AJ Storer 7, Klesmit with 9, which is a little bit of improvement, and Chucky Hepburn with only 3, which a little surprising. Usually you see him shoot the ball the most out of everyone sometimes, but he had a slight 3 points. And then off the bench, Blackwell again with 10 points. He's just consistently producing off the bench, which I think is huge for the Badgers. Nolan Winter, he had 3 off the bench, and then Carter Gilmore had 4 points off the bench. But I think those 4 points were huge because they were momentum. I don't know if anyone watching or listening to this had watched the game, but there was a putback dunk that actually made me like, wow, I didn't even know that man could jump like that. And it got me excited. Even though he had 4 points, I think those 4 points were huge. Something that the people were saying, or the announcers were talking about, is the rebounds. The Badgers had 20 offensive rebounds compared to Virginia's 3. And then 28 defensive rebounds compared to 18. Now, I don't think you need to know that much about basketball to know that 20 offensive rebounds is very impressive. And that just goes to show how the Badgers were able to use their size against this Virginia team. And then for the three-pointers, we had 8 for 18, which is a little bit of an increase for us there. Usually we're around like the three three-pointers range, where that's how many we make, but we made 8 compared to their 4. They shot 4 for 14 with a 28.6 3-point percentage, so that's not very good. They also only shot 32.6% from the field, and we shot 40.3% from the field. So 8.8 percentage is if you look at the score, clearly that's huge for us there. Let's see if I can get to I want to get to Virginia's. Here we go. I'll just go over a little bit of Virginia's stats. Their main scorer was Reese Beekman with 17, but then the rest of their starters didn't do a whole lot. McNeely had 9, Dunn had 6, then Andrew Rode Rhodey, a guy we said that's from Wisconsin, he only had 5 there. And then their bench didn't put up almost anything. So quiet night for the Virginia Cavaliers, but I think you can give credit to that Badger defense who I think impressed a lot of people tonight.
Yeah, 100%. And player of the game, definitely Steven Crowl. I thought Crowl was all over the place, 10 rebounds, like you said, and 15 rebounds, or 15 points there for Crowl. So big game out of Crowl there. Like you were talking with Hepburn there, only 3 points, and that seemed like it was low for a guy like Hepburn. But, after the game, listening to Crowl, it's the little things that Hepburn does that makes him what he is. It's the little things, the having the confidence when he's out there, has the ball in his hands. This is our guy. Having, the point guard of our system here, 3 points, but 6 assists in this ball game here. That was impressive. 6 assists. Impressive work out of Chucky. Looking at Tyler Wall on the flip side of that there, looking at him, 7 offensive rebounds in this ball game. That's impressive. Cleaning up the offensive glass, only 9 points, but those 7 offensive rebounds, like you were talking, coming up at big moments there with Gilmore, those offensive rebounds came up at huge moments. Another thing that impressed me with Crowl and the other bigs from Wisconsin, they absorbed that double team that Virginia tried to put them in, and they immediately found the kick out. They didn't panic. There was a couple times I saw Gilmore panic just a little bit, but they didn't panic. They absorbed it, they let it come, and then they took care of business and kicked the ball out. I thought that was a good sign for a Wisconsin team there. Also, looking at, like you were talking, Blackwell again. Huge off the bench for the Badgers. 4 for 4 at the line, all over the place on the defensive end, on the offensive end, all over the glass there. Had 4 rebounds there for the Badgers. Defensively, held on. Versus a very athletic, they're pretty good, a pretty athletic Virginia team. I thought Blackwell played very well for them. Also, like you were talking there, Klesmit, 9 points, finally finding his stroke a little bit there. He had a big 3 in this one. People don't really look at that 3 and say, 1 for 3 from downtown. It's not like it's off the charts. But that 3 came at a huge moment for Klesmit there. 4 for 7. I thought he had a couple of big buckets, couple big turnarounds in the lane there from Kles. I thought that was a great game out of Klesmit. It's like, we wanted to see something big out of him, and he produced 9 points. I'll take that from Klesmit. I thought that was a pretty good effort from Klesmit. Couple of shots that he had, could have went down, rimmed in and out. You can't do anything about those. But Klesmit, big game there. And like you said, with Gilmore, only 13 minutes, 2 for 2 from the floor, 4 points, but 4 rebounds in those 13 minutes. And like you were talking, played big minutes for the Badgers. Those 4 points came at crucial points when the Badgers needed that point. Like you said with that putback dunk, didn't see him coming. All of a sudden he throws it down. It's like, whoa, that's a momentum. That's the boost that the Badgers needed to keep that drive going in that one. And I thought that was huge for the Badgers there. Like you were talking, rebounding, holy cats, 20 offensive rebounds, led the way by Tyler Wall there with 7. That's impressive work on the glass. Virginia is not really that huge, but it just seemed like Wisconsin had everybody in there on the offensive glass trying to get that rebound constantly, and the ball was bouncing their way. Can't really do anything about that, but Virginia was susceptible to it. They were out-rebounded by Florida too early on in the year. Wisconsin did the same thing to them there. Good to see Wisconsin finally being aggressive and getting on the rebounding front there. And the most impressive part, the offense actually stayed fluent throughout the entire game. I saw guys cutting. I saw guys moving on the weak side. With the ball, without the ball screens. How many times did we see Crowl and Chucky with the ball screen? Crowl rolled to the basket, and there he was. And we were able to hit him. And when it wasn't there, we were able to swing it around a little bit, find an open shooter. And like we were talking, how many times did we get in the post to Crowl, Wall, whoever it was, and they were able to kick out, and then all of a sudden we had a corner 3 for Blackwell, and he canned it. There was multiple times throughout this game where the movement of the basketball was huge, and hopefully the Badgers keep doing that, because that was, I was texting with my uncle a little bit during the Badgers. We always do. And we were talking about the game there. We said the same thing at the exact same time. It's like magic out there on the court when they actually run an offense. When something is being done, when they're not just standing, something's being done. So that was a great thing to see, was Wisconsin's offense kind of getting at it. Also, like you were saying, the defense. 18 points in the first half from Virginia. And Virginia is a slow-moving team. Don't get me wrong. They're a slow-moving team. But to hold any team, it doesn't matter who it is, whether you're playing UW-Milwaukee, UW-Whitewater, or you're playing the Virginia Cavaliers, it doesn't matter. Holding a D1 opponent to 18 points in the first half of a basketball game is impressive. I don't care who you are. You can say what you want. That's impressive work out of the Badgers defense. Did they only score 28 points themselves? Yeah, they only scored 28 points. But in a game against Virginia, a tempo game, it's kind of what you expected. They were going to pack the paint. They were going to try to shut Corral down. They were going to make the Badgers hit shots. Badgers really didn't get hot from downtown until the second half when they really started to stroke it. So, I mean, that's where I'm leaning right now is the Badgers defense finally gave me a little bit of promise here, trending in the right direction, leading forward, and their offense was impressive in this one. I honestly thought their offense was impressive, especially against a pretty good defensively coached team like Tony Bennett's got out there with the Virginia Cavaliers. They lack the offensive game, but this Virginia team is still very good on the defensive side, and Wisconsin moved the ball and found their shots. So that was huge to see out of this Badger team in this one.
You also looking at the stats just a little bit, Connor Seaton only had 4 minutes there. So I don't know if still a little bit of that injury lingering there, or maybe they decided that he's just not producing on the defensive side, so they're going to go with these other guys. I don't really know the whole situation there. But also I was going to say, it seems like when the Badgers get to these Thanksgiving tournaments, these holiday tournaments, they spring up. They do something. You look at when they were in the Maui tournament with, I think that was Johnny Davis. They did really good. They won that, I think. They beat St. Mary's. I think that was 2 years ago. And then, I mean, back when they've always been in like the Bahama or Battle for Atlantis, they always did really good. It seems like when they're in these tournaments, they start to do really good against, or decent against, these teams, which I think is really good to see. And I think we're seeing that again here in the Fort Myers tournament.
Yeah, and like you were saying there, I just wanted to dissect that a little bit. Connor Essegian, what I'm seeing right now, the emergence of John Blackwell, Kamari McGee, having guys like Nolan Winter and all these other guys, I think it's kind of pushing Essegian to the back burner right now. He's an offensive weapon. He can be. He hasn't been able to find his stroke yet, but his defense is still a liability. And I think guard's kind of playing towards that right now. We watch these games, we see a lot of Blackwell, we see a lot of McGee, but we don't see a lot of Essegian or Isaac Lindsley. It seems like guards kind of, whoever's playing the best defensive ball for him, who is ever playing the most hustle basketball, is staying out on the court. We watched that against Robert Morris there the other night, where we didn't see AJ Storr or Klesmit for basically the second half. We saw him in the first, but we basically didn't see him for the last 10 minutes. Well, guard went with the 5 that were giving him that hustle and were producing for him. I think that's what we're going to see here from here on out. So Essegian's going to have to earn his playing time back, I think is what really it is. He might be lingering with an injury. We might be, but from what I've heard, he's feeling okay. Everything's okay. He's not hurt. So maybe they're just trying to ease him back into it and trying to get his rhythm back into it. But 4 minutes, it's hard to get your rhythm back in 4 minutes.
And with the amount of talent that we have on this bench, I mean, you have to earn your spot now. I mean, last year you would probably say we didn't have as much talent, so you were kind of just given that, considering he was, I don't know what kind of star he was coming out of high school, but he was given that opportunity. Well, now we got a little bit better talent on our bench. You kind of have to earn your spot there, and if you're not going to produce, then you're just not going to play.
100%. They got a lot of talent. That is for darn sure, and he's going to have to find it. My only problem with him trying to find it, the minutes aren't there right now, and I think that's going to be a struggle for him, is trying to find the minutes to get in there, because who do you take him away from? Right now, you can't take the minutes away from Blackwell. McGee is putting up pretty good minutes for you. You're not going to take Chucky's minutes. Maybe Klesmit if he's having an off night. That's the only guys I can see, really. Maybe a guy like AJ Storr, if he's having, tonight he had some mistake passes and everything like that, and guards pretty quick to pull guys when they make mistakes. So maybe we see Essegian start to get in there a little bit. He's not bad on the offensive end, by any means. He's a pretty dynamic offensive player. He can hit the mid range. He cuts. He's getting a little better. His 2 points came from cutting to the basket, so he's a pretty good cutter. Late in the game, he's definitely one of the better free throw shooters on Wisconsin's team. So there's a role for Connor Essegian, But right now, I think the Badgers are trying to find it. I think Gard is trying to find it right now with this Badger team. But Badgers get the win against Virginia there. Big win for the Badgers, 65-41. They will advance to Wednesday's championship game. We will get into previewing that a little bit tomorrow there on the show. But right now, we're going to jump over into the Bucks. Bucks had the Wizards last night, won that game 142-129. A big performance from Giannis, had 42 in that ball game. Austin, what do you got for stats for that game for the Bucks against the Wizards?
Yeah, like you said, Giannis 42, Middleton playing some decent minutes, 18 points, Lopez 16, Damian Lillard 22, and then Beasley was 16, and then even Bobby Portis off the bench was 17. This was overall just a great game played by. Or not, I mean, they put up 142, so you could say they played a pretty darn great game as a team collectively, which is great to see. Giannis had 13 boards, he got a double-double there, almost a triple-double. He had 8 assists too, 1 steal, 1 block. And then when you look at the Washington Wizards, Kyle Kuzma 22, which I kind of assumed he'd get his points. Also with Jordan Poole, he had 30 points, so. Like I said in the pre-show that we talked about yesterday, I said Kuzma and Poole are mainly their top 2 players there, and I mean right there it just proves you that those 2 guys are their primary scorers. Tyus Jones, wait, which one is it? It just says T Jones. Tyus Jones, yep. He scored 18 for them also, and then Gafford scored 14. So they helped a little bit, but 129 points was just not good enough to be a very good Milwaukee Bucks offense there.
My problem with that game is the 129. Yeah. Washington is not that great of an offensively put together team. I mean, Poole, we watched him with the Warriors. He's got moments where he can ring it up. Kuzma can put some points together, but I mean, 142-129, at the end, there was some bench minutes and everything like that, and you weren't really pressing it as much, but still. I mean, looking at this one, you gave up 38 points there in that second quarter against this Washington Wizards team, 37 there in that third quarter, so the Wizards were right there with the Bucks for most of this game, and that's where I'm the defense for the Bucks definitely needs to see some improvement. You're going to have to see it, especially coming up here. I believe they play the Celtics on Wednesday. I believe that's their next game coming up here. Trying to get it to pull
Celtics
up.
On Wednesday.
Celtics on Wednesday. You're definitely going to have to see a defensive improvement there because Drew Holiday for the Celtics there. If I believe he's still playing, there's nothing going on with him.
Yeah,
injury-wise, but if he was injured or anything like that. But Drew Holiday is going to bring the defense against you, so you're going to have to play a pretty good defensive game there against the Celtics in that one. So that should be a good matchup. We'll preview that one coming up tomorrow there. But right now, I want to jump over to the Packers. We covered their game yesterday, or what they had Sunday there against the Chargers. A good improvement win there for the Packers. But I just wanted to dig a little bit. I wanted to get some impressions on Jordan Love right now, what we're feeling. Right now, with Jordan Love, I liked what I saw, but still not good throwing the deep ball right now. A lot of his completions were coming out underneath routes, anything like that, dump passes. The receivers kind of made the routes, and that's not terrible. I mean, Aaron Rodgers made a living some games off of making throws like that. But the problem I'm having is he's still not consistent with the deep ball. So that's where I'm at with Jordan Love right now is I'm hearing a lot of people talking about him. And it definitely was an improvement game out of Love, but I still feel like we need to see more. We need to see more out of Jordan Love before we can solidly say Jordan Love is the quarterback of the future for the Packers. I think he's starting to put something together, but we definitely need to see some completions over 30 yards. We need to see him lead receivers, not throw it behind them, not have Jaden Reed have to run back and catch a ball, not have Christian Watson have to reach back and try to catch a ball. I want to see Love lead some guys down the sideline, hit a guy in stride for a big gain, anything like that. That's what I'm hoping to see out of Jordan Love here moving forward. What are you seeing kind of out of Jordan Love right now in that aspect?
I'd say definitely improvement game here. I mean, when you look at his stats, even though when you look at stats compared to just watching the game, I mean, he had 322 yards passing, which is average at 8.1 yards because he had 27 completions and then 2 touchdowns. So I mean, yes, even though he was off on some of them deep balls, I mean, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady made a living off of just dumping it down. And I mean, it made defenses go crazy. To Gronk and then Julian Edelman, like all of them short routes. I mean, yeah, I would love to see him get better at throwing the deep ball. I think that's just what us Packer fans are customary to with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just always used to chuck it deep, put it right on a dot. And obviously, we're not seeing that with Jordan Love. And we're like, oh, he's just never going to grow. I think that's just because that's what we were just born into. We were just born into greatness on Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers being able to make that deep throw right away. And we're just not seeing that from Jordan Love. But I think he will. I think he will get better. A lot of people wanted to doubt Jordan Love when he started doing bad, and now look at him. I mean, 300, like I said, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a win. I mean, that's all you can ask for right there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you win as long as you win, and it's improvement. And that's why I like to see out of Jordan Love. And hey, it's another day that he's able to stay on the Packers for him. So I'm pretty sure he's happy about that too.
I definitely am still doubting him just a little bit. My only problem with the entire, and your statement is 1,000% correct. It is 1,000% correct. But Tom Brady could make the deep ball throw when he had to. And Aaron Rodgers made the deep ball throw when he had to. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, doesn't matter who you went through in the history of quarterbacks, made the deep throw when they had to. My only problem is when Jordan Love has to make that deep throw. When we have a guy like Christian Watson who runs a 4.340 who can blow the top off of a defense and he gets wide open down the field, can Jordan Love lead him to hit him in stride, or will that corner catch up to him? Can we make that big play like that? That's my worry right now with Jordan Love. If he can't develop into that kind of quarterback, that's my problem, is that, you go through, I like I said, I'm okay if he's going to dump the ball off. If he, like I said, Rodgers made many plays where he dumped the ball off to a receiver and they made a 40-yard gain. I mean, how many times did we see a 7-yard slant route turn into a 40-yard gain for Randall Cobb or Jordy Nelson or any one of them guys? I mean, those were your guys. My only problem is that we need at times you're going to need a big ball hitter. You're going to have to be able to spread out a defense. Otherwise, defenses can scheme you. If you're not really one-dimensional quarterback, but all you can do is throw within 20 yards, it makes the cornerback's job a lot more easy. I mean, it makes their life easier playing the cornerback, the safety position. You don't have to play deep because you can't throw it there. I would cover every receiver underneath because the ball's coming underneath. You're going to pick it off. So that's where my problem's relying with Jordan Love. That's the improvement that I want to see. I want to see Jordan Love make those throws. When Jordan Love makes those throws, then I become more of a believer that Jordan Love can be that guy. But until he can make those throws, that's where he loses me. That's where he's losing me right now. Looking at that game against the Chargers, no throws for over, I think it was 30-plus yards. There was 0 throws for over 30-plus yards. I mean, you don't see that a lot in today's NFL. You don't see that, that kind of stat. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, that he likes to dump it down, but Patrick Mahomes loves to air it out too. So that's where I'm at right now with Jordan Love and his ability right now. Is I just want to see a little bit more. I want to see that little bit of improvement. And we're giving him time. We're definitely giving him time to show it. But I think right now the Packers offense has looked better, against the Steelers and the Chargers. But how does this Packers offense look when they play the Lions and they play the Chiefs? How does this Packers offense stack up in those games? Because you can look good against the Chargers. They have one of the worst defenses in all the league right now. How does it look against the Lions, who manhandled you first time out? So that's kind of where I'm at right now with Jordan Love.
Yeah, when you're saying that, now I think back of the ball he kind of overthrew, just a little bit overthrew Luke Musgrave. I think he would have went for a touchdown on that play. That would have been huge. But I want to kind of switch a little bit and talk about the emergence of Dontavion Wicks. I think he's been a little bit of an underrated player, especially in a wide receiver group that has been making some pretty big plays, especially against the Chargers. I mean, just against the Chargers, he had 3 receptions for 91 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but his longest was 35, and I'm pretty sure that came on that last drive when they scored that touchdown, the go ahead touchdown. Um, I think he's going to be start becoming a guy that Jordan Love trusts just a little bit more and more. And hey, he'll still have Romeo Dobbs, he'll still have Jaden Reed, but to seeing Dontavion Wicks get these really good reps in and doing good, I think it's huge for our wide receiver core, especially since Christian Watson hasn't been doing as much. I mean, Christian Watson still had 2 receptions, 21 yards, and a touchdown. It seemed like he hasn't had a touchdown forever, but he did finally get that touchdown, and that could hopefully spring him forward into producing a little bit more. But overall, I think Dontavion Wicks might be a new go-to guy for Jordan Love. That also gets him a lot of yards too.
Yeah, and I think you look at this Packers team, it's like, we've been waiting for receivers. Who's going to be that Randall Cobb? Who's going to be that Jordy Nelson for you? Who's going to be that Devontae Adams? I think they're kind of, with Wicks, I think Jaden Reed's kind of developing into that Randall Cobb guy. He's that slot guy. He can get out. He's going to make that big play for you. Looking at Romeo Dobbs, I like Dobbs. I think Dobbs, I saw him fight for that 50-50 ball the other in that last game against the Chargers, and I was like, okay, that's my Devontae Adams. That's my guy. He's a shifty guy. He can make the plays for you. I like Romeo Dobbs. And I think, honestly, like you were just talking, Wicks turns into my Jordy Nelson. He turns into that kind of guy for me. The big hitter, the guy who's consistent and can make those simple. When I need a simple guy and I need my bailout guy, I think Wicks can be that guy. He's the bailout. When my big hitters aren't there, when Jaden Reed's not open and Dobbs is double covered, I have Wicks and I know I can go to Wicks. My only question mark, where does that leave Christian Watson? Because right now, with the way the wide receiver room's kind of spreading out right now, Watson's the guy who doesn't fit for me. He's the guy he's got potential. We know he has potential, but I was listening to Bill Michaels talk about it a little bit, and he said, it comes down to you can have all the speed in the world. He said Usain Bolt has a lot of speed, but he said Usain Bolt can't play football. Can Christian Watson play football? Can he go get that 50-50 ball? We need him to get that 50-50 ball. My only thing is that if Jordan Love cannot be a consistent deep ball thrower, Christian Watson's main part of his game gets taken away because that's his job. His job is to blow the top off the defense. If he can't blow the top off the defense, what's his job? I mean, what really is his job? You send Christian Watson over the middle, he's like a piece of paper. He's going to get hurt. He gets hurt in the linebackers. He can't be in that area. So he's got to be down the field with the corners. So that's my worry right now is Christian Watson's kind of becoming a non-factor in the Packers offense right now. And Luke Musgrave becoming a big threat there in the offense for the passing game. So that's where kind of worrisome right now if you're a Christian Watson fan, where that train is heading right now. Also, I'm kind of worried leading up into the Lions, what the running game is going to look like. Because right now I saw they signed Patrick Taylor back from the practice squad. He signed back. James Robinson was sent back to the practice squad. So we got Patrick Taylor and A.J. Dillon for this game against the Lions. So a rushing game that was already struggling, now they're struggling some more. And we got to see some good play out of the offensive line in this one if A.J. Dillon is going to be effective. Because without a good game from the offensive line, A.J. Dillon, I mean, he's a bruiser. He's going to try and find a hole and hit it. He's not shifty like Aaron Jones. He's a big bruiser. He's going to try to hit it. So that's where my worry is right now with the rushing game for the Packers. If the rushing game can't do it, Packers got to develop a little bit. And I could see Jaden Reed getting involved in the run game. I love the end around that they did against the Chargers there. That was some good business right there that Matt LaFleur and the offense drew up there for that game against the Chargers. Maybe we see a little bit more of that. Maybe a little bit more shifty stuff with the receivers there getting involved in the run game for the Packers. But with that, anything else you got for the Packers?
No, I was just, Patrick Taylor, he got released from the Packers. Now he's back. So maybe this is his time to he probably maybe not take things for granted and just go out and play and prove that he should be stay on this team even when Aaron Jones and Williams comes back from their injuries, whatever is happening there. Not quite sure, but yeah, like you said, the run game is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I think they're going to have to do some unique things on the offense to try and loosen up the defense to be able to score. The game on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, it will be a good one to watch. Hopefully, it's not like the last time they played the Lions and got completely blown out on Thursday night. They play them again on Thursday. So hopefully it goes better for the Packers.
A little revenge trip for the Pack against the Lions there on Thanksgiving. We're going to get more into the Packers this week, leading up into this. It's a short week. It's a short week before we have the Lions coming up. So we will be covering the Packers closely here leading up into this one. But with that, we got to jump to Austin here. He's got his fact of the day.
On this day in 2004, the CFL Grey Cup, and if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's basically the Super Bowl of the Canadian Football League. At Frank Clair Stadium in Ottawa, the Toronto Argonauts defeat the British Columbia Lions 27-19. Now, that might not be relevant, but this is the first Grey Cup game played on next generation field turf surface. And I bring this up because now there's been a lot of speculation on turf not being so good for athletes as a lot of non-contact injuries. So I thought that was interesting. Also, the Gold Cup or the Grey Cup just happened for the CFL, and there was an old UW La Crosse football player that was on the Montreal Alouettes, and he won in the Grey Cup. So I thought that was also unique to point out.
Impressive stat of the day out of Austin there. That one got me. He really expanded on it. He got into it. That was impressive. An impressive stat of the day out of Austin. We didn't get Austin's take yesterday on Badger football. So Austin coming off of a gutsy win there against Nebraska there, an overtime win. It wasn't pretty. It definitely wasn't pretty. What did you see in that overtime win for the Badgers that impressed you, that kind of was ugly and, made you think we're not really there yet?
Yeah, we got into the Badger segment as soon as my Wi-Fi decided to take a dump. And I just kept talking, and Trajan couldn't hear me, but here I'll talk. What concerned me is the defense in that first quarter. 14 points that they put up right away. That is concerning, especially in the first quarter. But they did revenge themselves, and I thought they had a pretty good rest of the game there for them. What is concerning also is Hunter Waller got injured in that game. So that also brings up concerns on how that defense, as him being a leader, obviously he talked about toughness and players playing soft. It'll be interesting to see if he comes back from that. I'm not quite sure what it was. But how the defense responds to him being out and the next guy that steps up to start making plays. Also, even though Braylon Allen did not get a lot of yards, he scored 2 touchdowns, which I think was crucial for us. Short yard situations, he was in there making plays. And, even though the Badgers but the Badgers won, I think it was good, even though if it was in overtime, no matter how they won, it was crucial. And we finally clinched a bowl game, even though it might be the stupid pinstripe bowl or whatever guaranteed rate bowl that they're going to be in. But I thought that was huge.
It was definitely they won. They won, and that's all we got to say is that they won. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't surprised. They should have won that game. That's about all I had to say. Was they should have won that game, and they didn't win it handily. And that's my problem with the Badgers right now. Looking at offensive ranks, defensive ranks right now for the Badgers, 8th in offense right now in the Big Ten, and they are sitting 7th in the Big Ten there for defense, total defense. So kind of not Wisconsin-like, especially looking on the defensive front. And it's not like the Badgers played a loaded up schedule. I want people to realize, did you know Northwestern's coach He's in his first year as Northwestern's coach. Did you know that? He's in his first year.
Interim head coach. I'm pretty sure he's not even their head coach officially.
No, he just got, before the season even started, he was basically thrown in the job because Pat Fitzgerald had the whole mess. Yeah. But my thing with it is that he's a new coach in the system, and yet he has Northwestern bowl eligible before Wisconsin's bowl eligible. That's kind of what I mean with when I say that this coaching staff is part of the problem with Wisconsin football right now, is it's not just all on the players. Everybody wants to blame Paul Chryst. I love when we blame Paul Chryst because his lack of recruiting over the years. Paul Chryst recruited his guys. You look at his recruiting classes that he had coming in, a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of linebackers, a lot of running backs. The guys that Paul Chryst recruits, that's Paul Chryst guys. That's what Paul Chryst, Jim Leonhard, and that coaching staff built Wisconsin on and had success. They had success against not Ohio State, not Michigan. They could beat Penn State, but they beat everybody else, and that was Wisconsin football for you. They had a winning tradition. They made it to a lot of pretty good bowl games, and they won a lot of pretty good bowl games. They won against Miami in the Orange Bowl. They had trying to remember back to Cotton Bowl win. They've had a lot of good bowl wins. So I'm just, kind of right now with the Badgers and their coaching staff that's my kind of problem right now is we can't blame it all on the players. We can't go back and blame it on Paul Chryst, and we definitely can't blame it on Jim Leonhard. Please let the coaches take some of this blame is what I'm asking. Are you kind of seeing the same thing as what I'm saying there with this coaching staff for Wisconsin, is that it's not perfect. They're not perfect. They're not top tier. I can tell you that much. North Carolina's offense is doing A-okay without Phil Longo still at the helm out there. Luke Fickell, I'll name off some coaches. Would you rank Luke Fickell up there with Nick Saban?
No. Can't.
No. Kirby Smart? No. You wouldn't name Kirby Smart? No. Dabo Swinney?
No.
Jim Harbaugh? Ryan Day?
Not even close.
No. So he's not a top-tier coach. I want people to realize that for 1 second in time here. Realize that Luke Fickell's not a top-tier coach, so please stop putting him on the pedestal. That's my thing with Wisconsin football right now, is that this coaching staff is put up on a pedestal right now where it's like, just in a lot of people's eyes, they can do no wrong. And that's what the problem is with Wisconsin football, is the ownership and the coaching staff. They lost a team. There's guys in that locker room who don't want to play. We heard about it. We know about it. And that's where I'm losing it right now. Paul Chryst never lost the team. Jim Leonhard never lost the team. Luke Fickell lost the team. Are you seeing anything kind of different out of Wisconsin right now with that coaching staff?
I'll say when we had Paul Chryst, I think even though he didn't, we might have not thought that he was getting the top of the top recruits. He knew how to recruit that fit his scheme and that fit his team. And that's what I don't know if Luke Fickell is doing quite well. You look at our offensive line, and heck, I don't have the stats pulled up or nothing, but usually, Wisconsin's offensive line has been known for their run game, not so much their pass game. So when Luke Fickell comes in here with Phil Longo, bringing in Phil Longo's air raid offense, throw the football. Well, we got these offensive linemen that Paul Chryst recruited that, are meant to run the ball. Now, I'm not saying this is all the offensive lineman's fault, but I'm just saying we have these guys that I don't think are necessarily fitting the scheme for what these coaches thought that they had.
Well, yeah, and like you were just talking there, statistically, actually, Wisconsin's their offensive line is better in the pass than they are in the run. And that's where, really? So everybody's trying to blame Paul Chryst. These are his guys, and that's why they're sucking. Why is the offensive line better in the pass than they are in the run? Because with Paul Chryst, we were in a pass-first offense. We were a run-first offense. And yet somehow our linemen are better in the pass game. So that's, kind of where I'm at, is like these guys, they transitioned over. There's no wide receivers that are really being utilized that were Paul Chryst guys. Chimere Dike is barely being used anymore. So, there is no Paul Chryst guy there. Braylon Allen is really the only offensive guy who's being utilized there out of the Paul Chryst scheme. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's, it just baffles me. It just baffles me there that he gets to blame. Paul Chryst gets to blame, and yet his offensive line isn't even run blocking. They're terrible in the run. I mean, I can't tell you, but why, with a 250-pound running back, are you starting in shotgun? Why is he in the shotgun? Why are we handing it to Braylon Allen out of the shotgun? Let Braylon Allen, a 250-pound dude, I mean, he's a big man, get a full head of steam coming into the line. Yep. Because who's going to stop him hitting the line there? You're not going to. He's going to get at least 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 a crack if you let him get that start. How many times have we seen Braylon Allen get stopped in the backfield because he barely has the ball and all of a sudden he's getting swarmed by 5 guys? That's my problem right now with Wisconsin, is that, you can not have your guys. You can have the wrong recruits in a system and they aren't your guys yet, but you can still scheme for the guys in the room. And if you can't scheme for the guys in the room, that you're not a very good coach. If you can't update your scheme to try and fix it for what you have, that's my problem. That's my problem with Wisconsin. I don't want to hear the excuse of these aren't my recruits, because then you don't know how to coach. If you come into a system as a coach, an NFL coach, how many NFL coaches come into a new system and they have to completely change it, but they're still going to work with what they have in the room. They're not going to make a wide receiver who runs a 6.5 40 try to blow the top off of a defense. That's the last thing they're going to try and do. It's working with the guys that you have, and I don't think Luke Fickell, Phil Longo are doing a great job of that. And, maybe when they get their recruits, in quotations, then Wisconsin's just going to automatically beat Ohio State. I really don't think so, because I've seen Luke Fickell's recruits at Cincinnati. They haven't been the team that's going to beat Ohio State. I can promise you that. That's my problem right now, is that the coaches aren't great right now. They aren't, and that's where I'm at right now. So anyway, back to you. I cut you off. I rambled. I'm sorry. I'll kick it back to you now. You can finish your statement.
Nah, you're all good. You fact checked me, and I'm one of those guys that you were just calling out. So, it's all good. But yeah, I don't really got anything else to say about that necessarily.
Okay. Well, we will move on to the Badgers, because we could blow up about the coaching staff all day long, but why would we? We're going to move on to the college football scoreboard from this last weekend. Georgia, another impressive win over number 18 Tennessee, 38-10. Ohio State wins that game against Minnesota, 37-3. Michigan survives against Maryland, 31-24. Florida State with a big win over North Alabama, 58-13. But can't remember Florida State's quarterback's name now. Travis. Jordan Travis was injured in that ball game for Florida State. So that's not good. That's not good for the number 4 team in all of college football to lose him this late in the season. Hopefully they got some good backup quarterback play there in Roadmaker, and he can develop into something special pretty darn fast. Looking down the line here, Washington survives, stays undefeated against Oregon State, 22-20. Oregon with a big win over Arizona State, 49-13. Texas with a win against Iowa State, not an impressive win, but they pulled it out, 26-16. Alabama took care of Chattanooga. We saw that one coming, 66-10. Missouri outlasted and won it on a last-second field goal there, 33-31 over Florida. Louisville got the win over Miami, stays at that 10-1. Louisville climbing back into it. Now Florida State with an injured quarterback. Maybe Louisville jumps them. I don't know. We'll see. 38-31 the finish there. Penn State gets the win over Rutgers, 27-6. Ole Miss with the win over UL Monroe, 35-3. Number 14, Oklahoma got the win over BYU, 31-24. LSU with a 56-14 win over Georgia State. Iowa outlast Illinois, son of a gun, 15-13, a real barn burner there. Arizona with a dominant performance over Utah, 42-18 with that win. Notre Dame wins it 45-7 over Wake Forest. Clemson, we called that one. Dabo's got Clemson trending in the right direction, 31-20. They beat North Carolina. Kansas State got the win over the Jayhawks, a little Kansas rivalry there, 31-27. Kansas State pulls it out. Oklahoma State with a 43-30 win over Houston, and the Wave, Tulane, the Big Green Wave, stays with that one loss on the season, stays in the rankings, 24-8, the win over Florida Atlantic. Any one of those games jump out at you from Saturday there?
Yeah, I think the Arizona versus Utah game. Not too long ago, Arizona barely, I'm pretty sure to my knowledge, barely had a team. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they were trying to get kids just to play, and now look at them. Now they're being Utah, who has been pretty good the past few years. I mean, really good the past few years. They were in the Rose Bowl not too long ago, but Arizona beating them 42-18. I mean, they scored 21 points in the first quarter alone. That's very impressive. And Utah's injured quarterback Cameron Rising did announce that I'm pretty sure he's coming back for another year there. So, I mean, good news for Utah that even though they're getting blown out. And then, like we called, Clemson versus North Carolina. Dabo getting them back in the winning ways there. I don't know if they're going to be ranked at all yet the rest of the season, but good win overall. Sad to see Kansas lose there against Kansas State. I was kind of hoping they'd win. Green Wave, of course, still winning, like I called. But besides that, I think Missouri, I watched that game versus Florida. That was a good win by Missouri at the end there to pull it off on the last-second field goal. And then they were doing the Gator chomp in front of all the fans and players. I thought that was pretty funny, right in front of the bench there. And then, yeah, Texas barely had – or not. I mean, they had a 10-point win, but as a seventh-ranked team against a very not-so-good Iowa State team, barely edging them out. Oregon dominant against a not-so-good Arizona State team. Washington clinches a Pac-12 championship berth there with that win over Oregon State. They're 11-0. And then, like you said, Jordan Travis getting injured, pretty gruesome injury there. They still beat North Alabama by a lot, but I think there's a case that you could put Washington over Florida State. It might take one more week to see how this Florida State team goes, but I mean, without their starting quarterback, I don't know if you could put Florida State ahead of Washington, especially with Washington another ranked win there. Michigan barely pulling it out, 31-24. This is after Jim Harbaugh is not allowed to be on the sidelines for the rest of the regular season, so that'll be interesting to see next week when they play against Ohio State. And then obviously Ohio State kills Minnesota and Georgia dominates over Tennessee. Overall, I mean, there's not too many I don't think there's any upsets really here except for the Clemson-North Carolina game. And then, sadly, JMU's run comes to an end. They did lose to Appalachian State. That was sad to see. I was kind of hoping the Dukes would win that. I'm pretty sure that game went into overtime. So that was kind of sad, but hopefully they win again. I mean, there's not much for them anymore, or anyways, because the NCAA said they're not allowed to even make their championship game because of going up to FBS. So that kind of sucks for them. But overall, good slate of football games. And next week is all the rivalry games. So I think that'll be fun to watch.
Definitely heading into a great week of college football. We'll get into that a little bit later on this week. Right now, I want to jump over into NCAA men's right now. We have the holiday tournaments coming up this week. We saw a couple of them last night. The Maui Invitational started last night along with the Fort Myers tip-off, along with the Badgers there. I just wanted to dip into this Maui tournament loaded up, having teams like Tennessee, Syracuse, Purdue, Gonzaga, Kansas, UCLA, and Marquette, all those teams sitting in there in the Maui tournament. That is a loaded up field. Looking at it right now, off of what I saw last night, it looks like Purdue got the win against Gonzaga. Now they are in a collision course. They have to play Tennessee. That is just how much of a gauntlet this will be. And odds are, if you win that game, if you're Purdue, you're going to face either Kansas or Marquette. I mean, we don't know. We're shooting this before Marquette and UCLA tipped off because that's a 10:30 start, and we did not stay up for that 10:30 tip there. But I'm assuming Marquette will pull that one off Kansas. Even if UCLA does, you're going to face, if you're Purdue, you had to face number 11 Gonzaga. Now you're facing one of the top-ranked teams in the country, Tennessee. And then you're going to have to face one of the top-ranked team in the country, Kansas, or one of the tops in Marquette and UCLA. So that's just how loaded up this Maui tournament is right now. I just wanted to look at the top 25 right now for college basketball. Flipping over to it right now. Looking at the top 10, we have, if I can ever get it to load in, for some reason it doesn't want to load it. You got top 25 pulled up on your end?
Yeah. Kansas number 1, Purdue number 2, and Arizona number 3. Purdue's receiving votes. Arizona's receiving first ranking or number 1 ranking votes. And then Marquette number 4, UConn at number 5, Houston number 6, Tennessee number 7, Creighton at 8, Duke at 9, Miami at 10, Gonzaga 11. I'll just name off all of them. Texas A&M at 12, Baylor at 13, North Carolina 14, Texas 15, Kentucky 16, Alabama 17, Colorado 18, FAU, Florida Atlantic 19, Arkansas 20, Michigan State at 21, James Madison at 22, USC at 23, Virginia at 24, who the Badgers, of course, just beat, and then Mississippi State at 25. That's the AP top 25. The coaches poll is relatively the same, with a few other teams mixed and mingled in there. They got UCLA at 24, and James Madison is not in the coaches poll, but relatively they're both the same there.
Definitely going to see a lot of this shake out here after this tournament play is all said and done. We're going to see some of these top teams pick up maybe 1, maybe 2 losses in this thing. So it's going to be something to see there. I know there's a couple other tournaments going on, looking at the Fort Myers tip-off like we were talking there. Virginia took the loss to Wisconsin, so we're going to see probably Virginia fall out of that top 25. Maybe Wisconsin slips in the back door, depending on what they do there in that championship game coming up on Wednesday. Definitely a lot to shake out in college basketball. We're going to be looking a little bit at these invitational tournaments as the week goes on here, kind of looking at the scores, see who is advancing, and see some of the top games that are coming up. I think as of right now, the only one that I saw, the big game that will be coming up, I believe tomorrow, will be, I think Purdue and Tennessee will square off. Yep, Purdue and Tennessee square off tomorrow there, so that'll be a big game there. Also, Gonzaga and Syracuse set to square off. So another couple big games there. Also, UW-Milwaukee will have a game at Daytona Beach. They're taking on Siena, so that will be a little bit of Wisconsin. Also, Green Bay. UW Green Bay taking on UC Riverside. That one's going to be out in Montana for that one.
It'll be good to see, since Purdue's playing Tennessee, and Tennessee, of course, played Wisconsin earlier in the year. It'll be cool to see how Purdue stacks up against Tennessee and kind of see what this Purdue team is like, playing a similar opponent that the Badgers played, kind of compare Purdue to Tennessee and see what Purdue's got against them, to see how they play against Tennessee also.
They have this monster of a man named Zach Edey who completely destroys everything and anything in his path. That's about it. What I heard from, I can't remember who I was listening to. Oh, it was at either the halftime show or the Badger game last night, or it was after the game. They were talking about Zach Edey, and it's like, you can't stop him. You can just slow him down. That's it. You might be able to get him in foul trouble. That'll slow him down, but that's about it. Zach Edey is a force to be reckoned with, and it's still going to be a good game. It definitely will be a good game. Tennessee's going to have to bring it in that one against Purdue because the guards for Purdue, that was their problem last year. The guards are starting to play a little bit better. So definitely a big week of college basketball. Check it out. If you are into college basketball, this is the week you want to be watching because these are the games. You're going to see some of the top teams in the country squaring off here. Like we were talking, a lot of big games coming up. Badgers are going to be taking on the winner of SMU and West Virginia. We're going to get into that championship game coverage. We're going to be previewing that tomorrow. Also looking at a little bit more of the Packers. Also checking out the Bucks and seeing around the sporting world and what's going on in Wisconsin and maybe out there stretched. We'll check out what's going on in Florida. I don't know. We'll see what's going on in the wide world of sports here coming up this week. But with that, that's about all we got for today. It's been awesome talking to you guys. Until we talk to you guys tomorrow, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trades. Thank you guys for listening. Deuces.